Hi guys, this is the Duke and welcome to another ranking video on the channel. Today we are going to take a look at one of the most famous counts, Count Dracula of course. And there's been so many Dracula movies through the years, so it's really hard to rank them all. So what I did was I took the ones I have, and that's many. So if you have another Dracula movie that you love more than these on this list, feel free to like tip me in the comment section. So this is going to be, I'm not going to try and explain every detail from the movie. I'm going to say if it's good, if it's bad, how close it is to the Bram Stoker novel, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's start with the least favorite. And this might come as a surprise because I know many people kind of like this, but it is Dracula Untold. Now, it could have been great. I love, what's his name? I have to watch it out. Luke Evans, he does a pretty good Dracula. But they made him into kind of like a superhero. I don't know. And all the CGI, I've seen this one once, and that was enough. It's not one of my favorite depictions of Dracula. The next one is with a sad heart, because it's Dario Argento's Dracula. I don't know what happened there. You have Rutger Hauer as Van Helsing, you have Aisha Argento as Mina, you have, what's his name, Thomas Kretschmann as Dracula. This could have been an excellent movie. But for some odd reason, Dario Argento decided to do like everything in CG, except some blood and gore. And it's ridiculous. You have a giant locust that looks straight out of a PS1 game. If anything, this movie is so bad it's funny to watch, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's not that close to Stoker's novel. Of course, it's always funny to see Rutger Hauer, but avoid if you don't want a cheap laugh. Next we have Jason Scott Lee in Dracula 2, Wes Craven Presents. I don't know what to say about this. It's entertaining, but it's at the same time not that good. It feels like what it is, a B movie, and it doesn't have anything to do with the Stoker novel except the name Dracula. Take it or leave it. You won't die from watching it, but it's pretty boring. And now we have another one that was, I think, made for TV, and it has Roger Daltrey, Peter Weller, and it's Dark Prince, the true story of Dracula. Now, this is doesn't follow Stoker's novel at all, except in the end. And I'm going to spoil these movies because these are old. But he doesn't become a vampire until the very last end. It just follows, Vlad Tepes. But it's a pretty decent watch. I kind of like it. Next up we have one that only have Dracula in the opening scenes, and it's Blackula, one of the blaxploitation movies of the 70s. You have this African prince who try to double cross Dracula, I think, and he gets bitten and turned into Blackula. Of course his name isn't Blackula, I think it's Prince something in the movie, but it's it's a decent watch. It's not as campy as you might think, but yeah, it's a hit or miss. And then we have Yes Franco, My Old Uncle Jess, with Dracula Contra Frankenstein. You have Howard Vernon playing Dracula, and the monster, I have no clue, but you have the usual cast of Francos, which is Dennis Price, Alberto Dalbes, Britt Nichols. It's fun. it's a fun movie, but it's campy like hell, and it doesn't have anything to do with Stoker's novel except the title of Dracula, of course. I think it's like Dracula is trying to resurrect Frankenstein or something like that. So yeah, campy fun. Next one is only having Dracula in the beginning and in the end, and it's the Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. Now this is an odd one because it's a collaboration between what's the name, Golden Harvest, I think, and Warner Bros. No, Shaw Brothers, which were famous for doing kung fu movies in the 70s, and this is actually a kung fu vampire movie. But it also stars the legendary Peter Cushing reprising his role as Van Helsing, and Dracula takes the shape of a Japanese or Chinese emperor. I don't know what it is. He's a bad guy. But Dracula takes his shapes and moves to China and resurrects the seven golden vampires. This one is really funny, you know. You can't go wrong with this one. It's campy as hell. Unfortunately, Christopher Lee didn't return as Dracula, so you have this other guy with green face paint, and he doesn't do the job nearly as well. But if you want kung fu, you want bad dubbing, and you want Peter Cushing, Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, it's a Hammer film. Next up we have Dracula 2001 with Gerard Butler as Dracula. This one is actually pretty decent. It starts out in the, I think it's the late 1800s, with Van Helsing and Dracula having kind of a mortal combat, and Dracula loses, and Van Helsing uses Dracula's blood to stay alive and guard him, and then some robbers come and steal his body. This one is actually, it has a little bit of the Hammer feel, I think, and it could very well fit into that timeline, and it has a very daring revelation in the end about Dracula. I'm not going to spoil that one because if you haven't seen it, it's pretty out there. But this one is a decent watch. I kind of like this one. And now we are going to upset a lot of people, because next up on the list is 1931's Dracula with Bela Lugosi. And the reason that I'm not having this one higher on my list isn't because it's old or anything like that and it's black and white. It's because it deviates very much from Stoker's novel, and even how great Lugosi is as Dracula, I don't know, he doesn't have fangs, he dies off screen, kind of. It's very tame. It has some atmospheric scenes, I give it that. But other than that, it's not Lugosi's fault. If they had made a movie more like the novel, it would probably have been better. But for me, I just don't love it as much as many people do, unfortunately. And yeah, it's a classic and everything, but there are better Draculas out there. I like this one, for instance. This is a fun one. This is Andy Warhol presents Blood for Dracula with Udo Kier as the anemic vampire prince. And this one is part comedy and part horror. It's also gory as hell. And it's Dracula aging in Transylvania, and he must have virgin blood to rejuvenate himself. And he goes to Italy, I think, and everyone he tries to suck blood from is not the virgin, even though they say it, and he like pukes these cascades of blood everywhere. It doesn't have much to do with the Stoker novel, but it's entertaining as hell, and Udo Kier makes an awesome Dracula. I can't say much about this. It's a kind of like a companion piece to also Andy Warhol's Flesh for Frankenstein, which also starred Udo Kier. And yeah, this one is hell of a fun. It's also very sleazy. Next up we have have? Oh my god, we are getting into the top ones. I'll have to say this one. Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, starring Gary Oldman, Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder and Anthony Hopkins. I love this movie. It's almost like a mix of fantasy and horror, and the cinematography is awesome, and Gary Oldman makes an awesome Dracula. What drags it down for me is a little bit of an underwhelming ending. You know, they try to redeem Dracula, and that's not in the novel. He's just pure evil, and they kind of mixes in the real Vlad Tepes a little bit too much for my liking. People say this is very close to the novel, and it is in some points, but in some points it's not. And they, for some, I mean, Gary Oldman plays Dracula awesome, but he doesn't look the part, man. In the book, Dracula is described as an older gentleman with a big mustache. He's dressed with black from top to bottom. He has hair in his palms, and he has fangs and pointy ears. And in the beginning he is older than he appears later in the novel, but like this theatrical weird hairdo, ball sack hairdo, you know, it's a little bit too much, which drags the movie down, I think. But it's my personal opinion, of course. And next up we have my favorite Dracula of all time. Unfortunately, he hasn't been in my favorite Dracula of all time. He has! Oh my god, I forgot. Alright, so this is Dracula, Prince of Darkness. And it's a direct sequel to Hammer's Dracula 1958. Dracula is still dead, and some kind of tourists find his castle, and there's a servant there. I don't remember his name, but he's pretty cool. And he resurrects Dracula and is on the prowl. And Dracula doesn't say anything in this movie. He's just a pure beast. Really evil, really menacing. It's an awesome Dracula movie, and Christopher Lee makes it so good. I wish Peter Cushing was in it, but he isn't. But Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Next up we have one that I have nostalgic feelings for, and it is John Badham's Dracula from 1979, starring Frank Langella, Donald Pleasance and Sir Laurence Olivier as Van Helsing. This stays 20% true to the novel. The base is there, but they make Dracula this anti-hero again, but in a good way this time, not in like Dracula Untold, where he's like this flying around superhero. And it's kind of like, I think this is the only one where kind of Dracula is insinuated to win in the end. So I love it. And the scenes under the cemetery where Lucy has been transformed, or Mina, I don't remember which. I think they switched it up in this. And she's so anemic and sick, so when she turns vampire, she's more of a shambling, rotting corpse. And those scenes, they haunted my nightmares when I was a kid. You can see a little bit of her there, if it will focus. Yeah, this one is atmospheric. It has an awesome soundtrack by John Williams, and also extremely well acted. Frank Langella is awesome as Dracula, even though he doesn't have fangs, but they show the marks, so you can imagine that they grow out when he bites someone. So yeah, Dracula 1979, my second best Dracula. And now, this one will shock people, but it is Jess Franco's El Conde Dracula, the Count Dracula. It's from 1969, 69 I think, or 1970, I don't really remember. But it stars of course, the awesome Christopher Lee as Dracula. As you can see here, there you go. He actually looks like he's supposed to in this one. And this one is 99.9 true to Stoker's novel. It has almost everything right. It has some ropey special effects, unfortunately, especially towards the end. But as completely true to the novel Dracula movie, it's unbeatable so far. And Christopher Lee did this movie because he always wanted to play Count Dracula, as Stoker wrote him. And you can say a lot about Jesus Franco. He was a hack sometimes. He made a lot of porno movies in the 80s. But when he really wanted to do something, he really did it good. As the same with the awful Dr. Orloff, or Female Vampire, or for example, Female Vampire, Virgin Among the Living Dead. He could do a lot of great movies. I don't know what I'm doing. Alright, so there you have it. El Conde Dracula, Count Dracula. And I don't remember if it's 1969. Oh, and I have to talk about the cast. It has Soledad Miranda. It has Herbert Lom as Van Helsing. And of course it has Klaus Kinski as Reinfeld. You know, what can go wrong? So there you have it. My favorite Dracula movies ranked. If you have anyone that you think I missed, please put it in the comment section below. I will see you in the next video, which will be a vampire roleplay actually, and I'm going to start working on it. There can't be any light without darkness, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.